The little boy never blinked. Not once. His small fingers twisted tightly into the fabric of his mother's old cardigan as if letting go would mean falling. His eyes, wide, hollow with hunger but still painfully innocent, were fixed on the glass display case 3 tables away. Inside sat 3 cupcakes: chocolate, vanilla, strawberry swirl. Under the cafe lights, the frosting looked like something from another world, smooth, glossy, perfect. A tiny cherry rested on top of one of them, like a crown. The boy didn't ask. He didn't tug. He didn't point. He just stared. His mother noticed. Of course she noticed. Mothers always notice. Lena Hartley adjusted him gently on her lap and pulled him closer to her chest, trying to block his view without making it obvious. Her cheeks burned. Her stomach had been empty since the previous afternoon, but that ache didn't matter. What mattered was the look in her son's eyes. They weren't greedy. They weren't demanding. They were hopeful. And hope can be more painful than hunger. She hadn't come into the cafe to buy anything. She had come to escape the cold. Outside, the February wind sliced through clothing like knives. Her son, Eli, had been shivering so badly at the bus stop that she feared his tiny hands would go numb. So she stepped inside the warmest place she could find, a place she couldn't afford. She chose a table near the wall, hoping the staff would assume she was waiting for someone. She kept her head down. People in expensive coats and polished shoes filled the room. Laptops, perfume, confident laughter. She didn't belong here. She knew it. They knew it. And she prayed the staff wouldn't ask her to leave. Lena was 29. Divorced. Abandoned, technically. Her husband had left 2 years earlier after losing his job and deciding fatherhood felt too heavy. Those were his words. Too heavy. Since then, Lena had carried everything alone. Rent for a basement studio in Chicago, medical bills from Eli's recurring asthma, 2 part-time jobs, early mornings stocking shelves, late nights cleaning offices. Sleep had become a luxury. Food had become measured. Hope had become fragile. That morning, Eli had eaten half a banana. The last one. Now he was staring at something he couldn't have. Lena swallowed hard and whispered, "Maybe next time, baby." She hated those words. Next time. There was never a clear next time. Across the room, a waiter noticed. He saw the child staring. He saw Lena's empty table. He saw the worn cardigan. He looked away. He had seen people like this before, coming in to warm up, occupying seats, buying nothing. The cafe was in a wealthy district. Management didn't appreciate loitering. He wiped a nearby table, pretending not to notice. Lena felt it, that silent dismissal. She lowered her eyes further. But someone else was watching. At a table near the window sat Daniel Reeves, 36, architect, widower. He had a plate of cupcakes in front of him, untouched. He ordered them every Saturday, not because he liked sweets, because his wife had. Maya loved cupcakes. She said they made ordinary days feel like birthdays. 3 years earlier, a drunk driver had ended both her life and the life of the baby she carried. Daniel had survived. Sometimes he wasn't sure why. Since then, Saturdays had become rituals. Same cafe, same seat, same cupcakes he never finished. A quiet punishment, a quiet memory. But today, something disrupted the routine. A little boy staring, not whining, not begging, just looking like the world had placed something beautiful behind glass to test him. Daniel felt something twist in his chest. He had seen that look before, in the ultrasound photo that never became a child. He looked at Lena, the way she tried to shield her son's view without making him feel ashamed, the way she held him protectively, as if she could wrap dignity around hunger. Daniel exhaled slowly. He raised his hand. "Another plate of the same," he told the waiter. When the cupcakes arrived, fresh and perfect, Daniel stood up before he could overthink it. He walked to Lena's table. She stiffened immediately. Embarrassment flooded her face. He placed the plate gently in front of Eli. "I think these were meant for him," Daniel said softly. Lena's eyes widened. "Oh no, we can't, I didn't—" "It's okay," he interrupted gently. "They're already paid for." Her pride wrestled visibly with desperation. Eli looked up at her silently, waiting, trusting. Lena's throat tightened. She nodded once. Eli reached for the chocolate cupcake like it was fragile treasure. He took a small bite. Then he smiled. It wasn't just a child's smile. It was relief. It was wonder. It was pure, undiluted joy. Daniel felt his vision blur. He hadn't realized how long it had been since he'd seen joy up close. Lena whispered, "Thank you. You didn't have to." Daniel shook his head slightly. "Sometimes," he said, "we all need someone to." They talked. At first, cautiously. Lena tried to downplay her situation. Daniel didn't pity her. He listened. Really listened. When she mentioned Eli's asthma, his expression shifted subtly. When she mentioned losing health insurance, he leaned forward. When she mentioned working nights and still barely making rent, he didn't offer advice, he just stayed. And for the first time in months, Lena felt seen. Not judged, not dismissed, seen. Before leaving, Daniel slid a small card onto the table. "If you ever need help fixing anything," he said, "I design buildings. I can manage a broken heater." She hesitated, then accepted it. She didn't expect to use it. People offered help all the time. It rarely lasted. But 3 nights later, the heater in her apartment died. Chicago cold does not negotiate. Eli's breathing worsened almost immediately. Lena stared at the broken radiator for an hour before picking up the card. Her hands shook as she dialed. Daniel answered on the second ring. He arrived within an hour. No blazer, no polished shoes, just a coat, gloves, and a toolbox. He fixed the heater, but he noticed more. The nearly empty fridge, the peeling ceiling, the inhaler running low. He didn't comment. He didn't stare, but something shifted inside him again. A week later, he called. "My firm needs a full-time office coordinator," he said. "Steady hours, benefits. It's not charity. I need someone reliable." Lena almost refused. Pride again. But Daniel's voice was steady. "I trust you," he said. Trust. No one had said that to her in a long time. She accepted. The change wasn't overnight magic. It was gradual. Steady paychecks, health insurance, a warmer apartment. Eli's asthma stabilized. He started preschool. Daniel visited occasionally, sometimes bringing blueprints for Eli to scribble on, sometimes bringing cupcakes. Not as charity, as tradition. Months passed. Something unspoken grew between them. Not romance at first. Healing. Daniel began laughing again. Lena began sleeping through the night. Eli began calling Daniel Mr. Dan. Then one evening, after Eli's 5th birthday, where Lena had baked cupcakes herself, she stood by the kitchen counter while Eli slept. Daniel lingered by the doorway. "You didn't just buy cupcakes that day," Lena said quietly. Daniel looked at her. "You gave my son dignity when he didn't even know he was losing it." Daniel swallowed. "That day," he replied softly, "your son reminded me that life doesn't end just because something does." Silence. But this silence was warm. Hope no longer felt painful. It felt possible. A year later, Daniel renovated an old building and turned part of it into affordable housing units. Lena helped manage the project. They named it Maya House, in memory, in gratitude, because one small act, one plate of cupcakes, had rewritten 3 lives. Not because cupcakes are magical, but because kindness is. And sometimes the smallest gesture reaches further than we ever know.